Milo Yiannopoulos was supposed to speak at NYU, and they canceled on him. And what's really crazy about this story is it's not really that NYU said, you know what, maybe Milo, you shouldn't speak here. It's that Mayor Bill de Blasio asked them to postpone the event because assessments of risk. This is a really crazy story, so let's just start through it. NYU postpones Milo Yiannopoulos' appearance after assessments of risk. The controversial conservative says he was censored after he was invited to speak to a handful of NYU students about the new politics of Halloween. He is claiming censorship after New York Mayor Bill de Blasio asked New York University to reschedule a planned appearance due to security reasons. Now, this is really funny. I've seen a lot of people claiming that protests are what triggered this to happen. Direct action, activism. I don't think that's true. I think this might actually be about a Halloween event. So let's read through it. It says, Yiannopoulos was invited by liberal studies professor Michael Rechtenwald to speak Wednesday in a classroom on the topic of politics and Halloween. But once word spread of the event, several students demanded that he not come to campus. Rechtenwald, in fact, said he invited Yiannopoulos in part because he knew it would get some people riled up. I'm an anti-PC cultural and social libertarian, he tweeted. Remember my views, which are in the public sphere, when people try to tar me with other disgusting and inapt labels. I'm having Milo in my class not as an endorsement of his views, but to challenge the censorship of the university. Rechtenwald posted on his Facebook account later on Tuesday, I was merely trying to arrange a cultural exchange between my class and a harmless person from the center-right. Which, right away, that's going to be that's probably a hugely controversial statement among activists, calling Milo a harmless person from the center-right. I wouldn't call Milo Yiannopoulos harmless, necessarily, because, Milo is an agitator, he's a provocateur. I wouldn't call him harmful, either. I just think, look, Milo can be boisterous, loud. There's things that follow him. Center-right might actually be fairly accurate. De Blasio's office was not available for comment, but an NYU representative says the invitation wasn't rescinded, just that the appearance needed to be postponed after police deemed it risky. De Blasio today requested that NYU postpone and reschedule the classroom appearance, but Milo Yiannopoulos for public safety reasons, in light of the nearby Halloween parades and NYPD assessments of risk. The university representative said, given the importance of close coordination between NYU's public safety personnel and the NYPD to ensuring safety, the university agreed to the postponement. But let me just say, it's absolutely censorship. Look, censorship doesn't necessarily mean it's shut down forever. Milo may in fact be able to come back, but the idea that they would shut down his event because of safety concerns that he is not the responsible for shows that we've got a serious problem. It's the heckler's veto, right? The idea that if you want to speak somewhere, they're going to shut you down because of something someone else would do. It's entirely not fair at all. It's kind of crazy to me that NYU is willing to shut this down because of security risks when Milo himself would do nothing. What they're really saying here is that far-left activists are a security threat, and if Milo shows up, it could be bad for the parade and for everybody. Why should Milo be shut down because of something somebody else would do? Sounds like New York has a law and order problem. People have a right to protest, but what they're concerned about is actual violence from the left. And with the parade nearby, that's what they're concerned about, but why should that be Milo's responsibility? They say Yiannopoulos, who has been banned from Twitter and other platforms after accusations of hate speech and racism, says his invitation was canceled and not rescheduled. As of today, I am without question the most censored man in America. That's not true at all. Alex Jones probably is. He told The Hollywood Reporter, the entire city of New York is terrified of one gay man stepping out of line and calling out the left as the intolerant, censorious crybabies they are. Yiannopoulos said he plans on delivering his talk on time at 3:30 p.m. from his New York hotel room and streaming it live. Well, yes, you'll give your speech, but I mean, in your hotel, you'd be better off going outside and bullhorning or something. Now, clearly not the most censored person in the country, but, and also I'll challenge, it says the entire city of New York is terrified of one gay man stepping out of line. No, they're terrified of Antifa. And this is the thing that Milo does, right? Milo would probably be better serving himself if he said, the city's not scared of him. The city is scared of Antifa showing up and causing problems and the security risks that come when you've got a parade nearby and Halloween events, probably kids walking around, and they're thinking like, okay, this is going to be a security risk. So I actually have this article. Let's talk about violence. Let's talk about this issue. Is Milo the threat? No. Is speech violence? No, it's not. Can words hurt people? Yes, they can. They can hurt their feelings and damage their emotional state. But for the most part, you can say whatever you want so long as you're not inciting someone to be violent, right? I recommend people read up on Jonathan Haidt. He talks about, he was on Bill Maher recently, that when parents remove every obstacle from in front of their kids have never been insulted, never been bullied. What ends up happening is they grow up, and if you call them a name, they freak out because they've never experienced that before. Think about it like this. When you first start playing guitar, your fingers are soft and weak, and they might blister and bleed. But after about a week, they're hardened and calloused, and you can play the guitar without a problem. It's a great analogy for what's happening with young people. They're so terrified of Milo Yiannopoulos saying mean words that they actually threaten physical violence. They think there's the same thing. They think they're the same thing because they've probably never experienced physical violence or verbal, insults. So to them, an attack is an attack, whether it's physical damage or an emotional state, right? Well, let's talk about physical violence and who's actually really dangerous. Actor James Cromwell warns of revolution, saying there will be blood in the streets if Democrats lose. Now, why would someone think that? Why would someone think that if the Democrats lose, there'll be blood in the streets? Look, if the Democrats lose, it's not going to be Republicans who are complaining. They're going to be happy. And the other funny thing, too, is even if Democrats win, Republicans still ain't going to be going out and pouring blood in the streets. I made a joke on Twitter once where I was like, if Kavanaugh doesn't get confirmed, Republicans are going to put on black masks to go around smashing windows. And everyone had a great laugh. Because Republicans just don't do this. They wave little American flags. I've talked to people, I'm like, look at Occupy Wall Street. There was some vandalism, there was anger, there was people marching through the streets. I wouldn't call Occupy overly violent or anything like that. Just disruption, a lot of disruption. The Tea Party, a bunch of people sat in lawn chairs waving miniature American flags. There's a huge difference. Now you look at Antifa and you look at the Republicans. You're seeing some Trump supporters, they do march around, they are being disruptive a little bit. But now you have Antifa smashing windows, throwing Molotov cocktails, $100,000 in damages to UC Berkeley, and then we have this. There will be blood in the streets. Well, let's read this. Actor James Cromwell told an audience Sunday night that a violent revolution is coming if Democrats don't win the midterm elections. Something is coming up which is desperately important to this country and to this planet. And that is an election in which hopefully in some measure we are going to take back our democracy, Mr. Cromwell, best known for his roles in The Green Mile and Babe, said in accepting a Carney Award in Santa Monica, California, Variety reported. We will have a government that represents us and not the donor class, he continued. We will cut through the corruption and we won't have to do what comes next, which is either a nonviolent revolution or a violent one, because this has got to end. Is that incitement to violence? He is saying what comes next, either nonviolent or violent. He is entertaining the option for violent revolution and putting blood in the streets. This is getting close, in my opinion, to not being free speech. Because if we actually see blood in the streets and we see attempts at violent overthrowing of the government, is he not responsible for using his influence and his position to tell people there should be a violent revolution? Speaking to Variety on the red carpet before the event, he said, "There will be blood in the streets if President Trump stays in power. This is nascent fascism. We always had a turnkey totalitarian state. All we needed was an excuse, and all the institutions were in place to turn this into pure fascism," he said. "If we don't stop President Trump now, then we will have a revolution for real. Then there will be blood in the streets." Mr. Cromwell, 78, is a longtime liberal activist who has been arrested multiple times for protesting environmental issues. Now, here's my problem. I would consider myself an environmentalist. I believe we should do everything in our power to combat climate change. I believe we should reduce carbon emissions. I believe that we should focus on real renewable alternatives. However, I am not a crazy person, and I actually do the research, okay? I'm going to deviate because I want to end the violence thing by saying this is a guy actually calling people to violence, okay? This is someone saying there will be a violent revolution, there will be blood in the streets. You're not seeing the same thing from mainstream Republicans. And this is one of the big issues. Yes, fringe elements associated with the right, ultranationalism, etc., have committed acts of terror, hands down. But mainstream Republicans are calling for calm and civility. This guy is a well-known liberal activist who just won an award. It is within their ranks where we see people doing this. The last thing I want to point out real quick about environmentalism. That's where I was going. is that the left is so opposed to nuclear energy, but nuclear energy has one of the best returns on investment and the lowest instances of workplace fatality and injury and death. Coal mining, where we produce most of our electricity, it's bad. It's bad for everybody. The problem is a lot of people who say, let's do nuclear energy, can't because of liberal activists, because of environmentalists. You want to protect the environment? We absolutely should be pursuing nuclear energy and any renewable alternative. But these people don't seem to understand foreign policy. They think everything is just the United States and nothing exists outside of it. The US is in competition with other countries. They are going to keep burning fossil fuels and rapidly developing their economies and pressuring us, and war is a potential, outcome of this shift in power across the world. We need to make sure that we can have a sufficient energy output to maintain our economy, but we also need to make sure that we're doing right by the environment. And it's a huge challenge because, China won't. Many of these countries won't listen. They don't care. They're going to keep screwing everything up. If we can't sacrifice our position simply because, the left is angry about something. If they were really, interested in reducing carbon emissions, nuclear power would be an option because that will not only reduce carbon emissions, but it's an excellent return on energy investment, more so than many other, technologies. That being said, other renewables are on the rise. Solar is doing better and better and better. Wind power, tidal power, all of these things are huge opportunities for investment so that we continue to have, renewable energy. That's what they call it. But the idea is it's an energy source that requires little input. It doesn't generate a lot, like wind and solar don't generate too much relative to coal and petroleum, but it requires much less input after it's already built. I don't want to get on a rant about environmentalism. I want to end just by saying Milo isn't necessarily canceled. He's being postponed. It is censorship in that it's a heckler's veto, but we all know when you see these statements time and time again, it's not the right that is overly violent or calling for violence. Yes, there are fringe elements on the right who commit mass, terror and large-scale acts of violence for sure. But you can't blame the mainstream for what the crazies do. The same is true for the left. When that Bernie voter guy went and shot up that baseball game, we're not going to blame the left for that. Or at least I won't. But I will blame the left when people do this. Come on, this guy's mainstream. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for hanging out. More videos tomorrow on the main channel, youtube.com/timcast at 4. And more videos on this channel, which is youtube.com/timcastnews, tomorrow at 6. Yes, people confuse the two, but no, this channel is Timcast News. Even though it says Timcast on the bottom, it's confusing, whatever. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys tomorrow.